The Raiders made one of the biggest moves in free agency so far in signing Christian Wilkins to a massive contract and pairing him up with Maxx Crosby. Bro, they might terrorize offensive lines next year, but I'm going to tell you why this move might be a great move by the Raiders, and then why it might be a huge mistake by Tom Telesco and be his free agent splash special, just like Derek Cox and JC Jackson. I am going to be totally unbiased, by the way, so if you're a Raiders fan, I am unbiased. Make sure to like and subscribe if you do enjoy this content, bro. And now let's start off with his stats in Miami this past season. Christian Wilkins, he had 9 sacks and 61 total pressures last year as an interior defensive lineman, which is a lot for that position. And he is now getting paid $110 million over the next 4 years. A lot of money tied to him and Maxx Crosby now for the Raiders when they don't have a quarterback. But I do believe that Christian Wilkins is a very good defensive lineman. He has been the best run-stopping defensive tackle since 2021, and he has such violent hands to displace offensive linemen in their pass set. I mean, this guy is legit, and he absolutely makes the Raiders better. No doubt in my mind from what I saw on film. But Tom Telesco has ignored some major concerns here, and the biggest one for me is that his pass rush win rate, it was 8.7% last year, and that was his best year in terms of pass rush. Just for reference, Sebastian Joseph Day had that same win rate, and it ranks 75th in the NFL. Now, you may think that for an interior defensive lineman, they very rarely are in a true pass rush, and other teams were so focused on stopping Christian Wilkins on that Miami defensive line because he's the big name. So that's not a great stat to judge him off of, and I could understand that argument, and that's why I went and looked at this Miami defense. And when you do, you will see that his stats are very comparable to a fellow defensive lineman, Zach Sieler. Now, you probably don't even know who this guy is, but this is a former Ravens 7th round draft pick. Wasn't really that good with the Ravens, couldn't stick around, but then went over to Miami, became a very productive player. This guy is actually good, okay? So I'm not saying he's bad, but obviously, as you can see by the stats here, he has more hurries on less pass rush attempts than Christian Wilkins. And Zach Sieler, he signed a 3-year, $30 million deal in August last year, and he is also 28 years old, just like Christian Wilkins. So you're telling me that this Dolphins defensive line had 2 interior defensive linemen that were just as productive as each other, and one of them is getting $10 million while the other is getting over double that per year now? And Christian Wilkins, he is a dominant run defender, but those guys, they don't get paid double the pass rushers. I mean, if it were the other way around, then it would make sense, but I really could not believe this. So that is why I did more research, okay? And then I found this stat. Christian Wilkins got double teamed a lot last year, and that probably freed up a bunch of other guys like Zach Sieler, and he was still that productive with a double team percentage of 65%. And that stat is coming from ESPN Next Gen Stats. So with that in mind, you can understand why he wasn't the best pass rusher on his team in terms of production, as well as like pressures and things like that. He's freeing up the other guys like Andrew Van Ginkel, Bradley Chubb, Zach Sieler, and Jalen Phillips so that they can have success, and they did. Bradley Chubb had 13 sacks, Andrew Van Ginkel 8, Jalen Phillips had 7, and that dude only played 8 games. That's really impressive from him. But Emmanuel Ogbah even had 6. That is pretty good production coming from your entire defensive line because you have a guy like Christian Wilkins who can eat away at the blockers and take on double teams while also even being able to beat guys and produce himself. Like, he even had 9 sacks last year. And I'm sure that is what Tom Telesco looked at specifically and said, this is exactly who we need to free up Maxx Crosby from double teams, because Maxx Crosby one of the best edge rushers in the league last year. And this should also help Tyree Wilson have a better second year, Malcolm Kuntz as well. But you know what? Tom Telesco said, screw Jerry Tillery, because I can't even look that man in the eye anymore after I wasted a first-round pick on him. That's why he was cut as soon as Tommy T got that job. But the rest of that defensive line, man, with Christian Wilkins, they're set up to eat in pass rush. And on top of that, he is going to be eaten too. So it's all looking good so far. But where I start to think this move could really blow up in the Raiders' face is because this is a ton of money to an interior defensive lineman that has only one season of more than 33 pressures, and that was last year. He hasn't been all that productive since entering the league, and he's never really taken over a game. So that's who you're paying $27.5 million a year to at 28 years old. I mean, my Tom Telesco spidey senses, they're starting to tingle here. I knew I had to look into this a little more because at first I was totally bought in on Christian Wilkins, that this was an awesome move for the Raiders. Bro, trust me, I even tweeted this at the time. Look up here, pull up the receipts. I thought, oh my God, the Chargers, we're going to need more offensive linemen because Christian Wilkins is going to hurt my man, Justin Herbert. And I do still stand by this tweet, by the way. The Chargers offensive line, man, it sucks. And the Raiders would dominate them right now if the season started. And so that big reason that Christian Wilkins has not been productive, right, with the pass rush is because of that stat that I showed you, that he's double teamed a lot. Okay, that's the reason, that's the excuse. But if you look at other guys on this list, they are double teamed just as often, some more and some less, but it's about the same, and they have much more consistent production. And on top of that, the average interior defensive lineman being double teamed is at 59%. So he was only double teamed 6% more than the other guys at his position. Doesn't completely take away how impressive his production was this past season, because if you look at the film, he looked awesome. It doesn't look as good when you compare it to Zach Sieler, because Zach Sieler was alongside him on that defensive line and he had just about that same production. So let's just say Christian Wilkins had 6% more than the average. Let's say that was taken away from Zach Sieler. So he had a 53% double team percentage last year, and he still had just about the same production as Christian Wilkins along that defensive line. And he's only getting $10 million a year. The other guys that are getting paid like Christian Wilkins, I mean, they have way more production in pass rush, but still, again, Christian Wilkins, he's not just a pass rusher, he is a dominant run defender, and this past season, he showed that he can also be a dominant pass rusher. And when the Chargers are playing the Raiders, it's going to be even more crucial that Christian Wilkins is good against the run, because that is what the Chargers want to do. Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, they have always been saying, ever since they've been hired, that they want to run the football. So maybe Tom Telesco heard that, and he's saying, I need a dominant edge rusher. I can invest in Christian Wilkins, who I know is a great run defender, and he's coming off a really good pass rushing season, so I'm going to bet on him with Max Crosby and the other guys that I have along this defensive line. Maybe I really like Tyree Wilson. I'm going to bet on Christian Wilkins to continue that pass rush success, because with that Miami defensive line, he wasn't playing with a guy the caliber of Max Crosby. I mean, not many people in the league play with a guy the caliber of Max Crosby, because he's just in a tier of very few edge rushers. So here are my final thoughts. I think that this is a great move for the Raiders, because I'm going to trust my eyes, and what I see on film from Christian Wilkins leads me to believe that he's going to continue to dominate with the Raiders. Sucks for Chargers fans, but listen, I just want to caution Raiders fans here, because he's really only had that 1 year of proven success as a pass rusher. And also, it is worth noting that Tom Telesco, he doesn't have a great track record of identifying the elite talent in free agency, okay? Khalil Mack was a trade. I know you're already thinking that. Just look at a couple years ago, J.C. Jackson, man. By all means, he looked great. I mean, this dude was the interception leader for 2 years, not just 1 year of great play like Christian Wilkins. And also, J.C. Jackson was 2 years younger. He was 26. And now here we are, and he literally apologized to the Chargers locker room because of how bad the J.C. Jackson signing was. And the Chargers, they're still paying him more than Derwin James. Those are my honest thoughts, man. I really think Christian Wilkins is going to dominate with the Raiders. Sucks as a Chargers fan to say that. But you know what doesn't suck? A PS5. That's right. I am giving away a PS5 Spider-Man 2 edition. If you're a Raiders fan watching this video, then you can still enter the giveaway. All you have to do is use my sign-up link in the description to create an Underdog account with my promo code McLane, that is MACLANE, and deposit $10. You will get matched back up to $100 on your first deposit. You don't need to spend any money. You don't need to make any plays, but you do need to deposit at least $10 in order for me to see it and enter you into the giveaway. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you didn't see my video yesterday, you can watch this one right here. The Chargers made a couple of good signings.